Let's look at the want to win teams, right? These are the playoff teams vying for better seeding. Maybe it's not a must-win situation, but they are playing for something, which is very important here. The Steelers right now against the Bengals. That is for the 5 seed if Baltimore takes care of their expected business against the Browns. The Chargers against the Raiders. If the Steelers lose, they could be playing for the 5 seed. And we know Harbaugh is crazy enough that might not matter, as he feels very the Campbell route. We'll have more on that later. The Rams against the Seahawks. If the Bucs take care of their business, the Rams are then playing for the 3 seed. The Commanders against the Cowboys. If the Packers lose, the Commanders are playing for the 6 seed. And then, obviously, vice versa, if the Commanders lose. And I believe they're playing at the exact same time. So, obviously, you feel like the motivation is there for both of these teams to win. If the Packers beat the Bears and the Commanders lose, then they take the 6 seed instead. So, one important note here, the AFC number 5 seed will play at the Texans in the wild card round. The 6 seed will play at the winner of the AFC North, which is a jarring difference, Jay, if you've watched the teams, notably the Ravens, that hover atop the AFC North, compared to what the Texans have gone through this second half of the season.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. And just in terms of how the market prices these teams, the Ravens right now are considered around a touchdown better than the Texans on neutral. So it's a huge difference. Like this is, and also the other impact of this as well is that I think that with what they've respectively shown, round 2, you'd probably rather go play Kansas City than Buffalo, I think. Now, other people might disagree, think that the Chiefs have an extra gear in the postseason, which I think is a totally fine opinion to have. But in a nutshell, Buffalo have been playing better than Kansas City. And so I do think there are worlds where if the Chargers or the Steelers get into the 5 seed, they could absolutely beat Houston. And then it's not like they're drawing dead against the Chiefs in round 2 either. So there's a path to the AFC title game where you can then get stomped by Baltimore. But I think there is a path to get there. And so I think what is going to happen here is that I think Pittsburgh are going to play all out no matter what. I think that if Pittsburgh wins and the Chargers have nothing to play for, I do think that based on what Harbaugh, the way he was talking around it, I do think he will rest guys. But if the Steelers lose, then I think the Chargers will go all out for the 5 seed.
Oh, yeah. And the beauty of it is with the Steelers playing, the AFC North teams playing on Saturday, they'll know. Yeah. So there's not going to be the uncertainty with this compared to on the NFC side, Matthew. It's a little bit more up in the air here. So the NFC number 6 seed will play at the Rams or Bucs/Falcons. The favorites would tell you the Bucs, but crazier things have happened in the wild card. And then the 7 seed would go play at Philadelphia, which is obviously maybe the worst matchup in the entire opening there of the playoffs. So your Commanders, Matthew, obviously playing for a win against the hobbled Cowboys in this spot.
Yeah, this is I think it's an important game for Washington. Like, first off, it's a young team. I don't think Dan Quinn, who should be coach of the year, and he's not going to win it, but Dan Quinn, Kevin O'Connell's done a great job here. But I mean, honestly, the Vikings won like 7 games. I'll get on a soapbox later about that. Whatever. The Vikings, other than the quarterback, the Vikings top to bottom have a much better roster than the Commanders last year going into this year, and still again this year. I think Quinn's reclamation project has been much better than Kevin O'Connell, who should get credit for Sam Darnold, rightfully so. It's been an unbelievable season for the Vikings and KOC, but anyway, Dan Quinn is my coach of the year. Having said all that, all right, they need to win this game. You do not want to go on the road to play Philadelphia. You would much rather play at LA or at Tampa Bay/Atlanta. You feel much better about those matchups than you do about having to go on the road to Philadelphia, a tough Eagles team that you barely beat if you're the Commanders. We barely beat them, with Kenny Pickett under center, basically, right? So I think that this is an important one. I think they want to win. I think Dallas will, once again, they got embarrassed last week against the Eagles, but I think they'll try to get up for this game as well. Unbelievable game for the Commanders, who every week just seem to pull out these victories. 5 turnovers against the Eagles, but they pull it out. Like, they let the Saints back into the game, but they managed to stop the 2-point conversion. They let the Falcons back into the game, but then Jaden Daniels drives them down and scores a touchdown at the very end because you can only hope to – you can't stop Olamide Zaccheaus. You can only hope to contain him. But I do think they'll go all out for this game. I do think they'll have success against the Cowboys.
Yeah, the bottom line is the Commanders control their destiny here, Jay, playing for the 6th seed. Like, it's a win, and okay, we're avoiding the Philadelphia scenario, so just simply go out and win. And they're obviously favored against the Cowboys. The last one, the Rams wild card matchup. With a win, or a Bucks loss, they're the 3 seed, and they're going to host the Commanders or Packers. With a loss and a Bucks win, they're the 4 seed, and they host the loser of Vikings-Lions. That's another one. It's a jarring difference. In theory, Sean McVay is somebody that we know he's careful with his players, but the Rams need to go out and be trying to win this game.
Yeah, I don't really understand what's going on here because the line has moved 7 points in the direction of the Seahawks, which implies that the Rams are not going to go all out to win this game. The Seahawks right now are 3-point favorites, 3.5. They opened as 3.5-point dogs. So the market thinks that the Rams don't really care about this, which I don't understand because I'd much rather be hosting likely Washington in the 6 than having to host the loser of Minnesota-Detroit. Now, it's not like Washington are a bad team or anything, and they will be dangerous in any matchup, but I would have thought that the Rams would much prefer to be in the 3 seed. So that is interesting. I do wonder if there is an element of the fact that, like, Kupp, Stafford have just not looked good the past 3 weeks. And I wonder if they think that just giving those guys an extra week of rest, that offsets the difference between playing Washington and Minnesota, Detroit. I'm sure McVay's going to make the best decision for his team, but it is strange that that line has moved so much in a game that theoretically does have stakes.
And a running back in Kyron Williams that does carry the rare modern-day workhorse load. So you're right, Jay. Maybe it is a fact that McVay is just looking at it and going, hey, I'd rather us be healthy and we'll prepare for anybody. We don't care about that. We think it's close enough. The line movement would tell you that's the route they're going, but this is a true coin flip one in terms of how they manage it. Let's look at the Week 18 waiver targets for this bracket of teams right here. So as you see, Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks, they are at the top of the list here. Quentin Johnson against the Raiders, Calvin Austin against the Bengals, Olamide Zaccheaus against the Cowboys, who has taken on a bigger role in this Commanders offense, and Zach Ertz, who's been one of the best values at tight end all year in the Commanders offense. Matthew, let's start with your man, Zaccheaus here, 97% available against the Cowboys. He's been phenomenal the last 2 weeks. I know the drop is in people's minds at the end of the last game, but fantasy production, he's been very, very good.
He has been. You know, on Fantasy Football pregame last Sunday morning, he was my desperation play. And I talked about the fact that Diami Brown was out, Noah Brown was out. They're looking for pass catchers in Washington opposite Terry McLaurin. And it seems like at the moment they've settled on that it's going to be Olamide Zaccheaus. You see Jamison Crowder on your screen there. He's in the slot. But back-to-back games now with 20 or more fantasy points for Olamide Zaccheaus. He's had a 24% target share over the last 2 weeks as well. And he made a bunch of clutch catches. He got the clutch touchdown, made a really nice catch against the Eagles, and obviously had just a monster game against the Falcons overall. Yes, one drop, but whatever. Overall, had a very good game against Atlanta, a revenge game for Olamide Zaccheaus. OZ, as those in the know like to call him. Oh. And by those in the know, I really mean just me. I've never heard anyone else call him that.
We'll continue to.
Those in the dark call him OZ. Yeah.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.